What if I told you there was one person who not only was lambasted by Jon Stewart as the George O'Keeffe of things you could walk inside, but also designed a sneaker with music superstar Pharrell Williams, taught in some of the most prestigious schools in the world, designed super yachts, and received more of the most prestigious honors in her field? Well, I'm here to tell you this person is Zaha Hadid. It's understandable, since Zaha Hadid is a famous architect, that you would have only thought of her for her dynamic buildings, but today I'm going to talk to you about some of her other notable accomplishments she made in her lifetime. I'm going to begin by introducing you to some of her other breathtaking designs, and then highlight some of her altruistic qualities, and then finally talk about her prestigious honors and awards. So Zaha Hadid was more than just an architect. She also designed furniture, lighting, and even shoes and yachts. In his article in Architectural Digest, Nick Malfi talked about how she designed super yachts with the German Blohm and Voss company. And Zaha Hadid was quoted to say, "As a dynamic object that moves in dynamic environments, the design of a yacht must incorporate additional parameters beyond those for architecture, which all become much more extreme on water." Her 420-foot unique circle yacht has a zone for underwater viewing, which I think is really cool. I don't think I've seen that on mega yachts before. And the bow can break through thick ice. Dan Howarth, writing for Design.com, talked about how she designed a sneaker with Pharrell Williams for his line for Adidas. Pharrell Williams has always been a huge fan of her and said that her designs augment reality forever. As you can see, her signature curvaceous lines come down the toe, give the shadowing. That makes it very interesting and pretty and sculptural, like her architecture. She also designed home furnishings for numerous companies. Also for Design.com, another writer, Eleanor Gibson, described Zaha Hadid's final collection for the David Gill Gallery in London. The Ultra Stellar collection is inspired by the timber antiques of the 50s and 60s, and it consists of walnut and leather pieces. And you can see how the pieces twist and turn, so it creates movement. She doesn't like straight lines. She also designed some suspended lamps for Slamp, and this is actually from the Slamp website. This is the Aria. It's 50 arms radiating around a large LED light source, and it comes in transparent and gold, as you can see here, and also in black. And it's a harmonization of beings and their surrounding spaces. And then also on Design.com, it's a great site, Amy Fearson talks about how Zaha Hadid designed boutiques for the Stuart Weitzman. There's 6 all together in the chain that she designed, and they all had different concepts. And the curved forms would integrate the modular shelving and seating for customers. This is just like the inside of one of her buildings. It's fantastic. But Zaha Hadid wasn't only designing for the physical world. She also cared about the people in it. Zaha Hadid was a person who wanted to help others as a professor, as a role model, and ardent supporter for women in architecture and the arts, and as a supporter of worker rights. As a professor, Rana Florida was kind enough to provide an extensive list in Huffington Post, and here's a few of the many schools in the U.S. and around the world that she taught at. Harvard, little place you may have heard of, Yale, the University of Applied Arts in Vienna, Austria, Columbia, and University of Chicago, which has a prestigious architecture school, and like I said, many other around the world. So she also has a foundation, the Zaha Hadid Foundation, and on the site Total Giving, I found that her foundation promotes education in architecture and design, and tries to help students seeking an education in architecture and design. It also provides for the maintenance of her of all of her designs and all of her work and archives, and to establish a museum or gallery where people can go and see her designs, pictures of her designs, small things like that. And additionally, she broke the glass ceiling for women in architecture. Um, Another thing she did was to bring attention to workers' rights in Qatar. As Royal Caltro wrote in Architects Journal, he talked about the defamation suit that she filed against the against an architecture critic. He wrote an article in the New York Review of Books, and he said that he accused her of coldly dismissing worker deaths at her building site in Qatar, where she was working on a stadium for the World Cup 2020, when in fact work hadn't even begun on that site yet. So obviously no one had died. She sued him. He was forced to give a public apology, and she got a huge cash settlement, which she gave to workers' rights foundations, organizations that help with that, work on that. And so that brought attention to workers' rights in Qatar, which forced the government of Qatar to make reforms, especially with the World Cup and all the world's attention on Qatar and the building going on in Qatar. So, with so many contributions in architecture and design into the world, it's no wonder that Zaha Hadid was such a critical success. She was highly awarded and in some cases was the first woman ever to receive the award. And Wikipedia helped me with a complete list, and here's part of about 100 individual awards that she received, and that doesn't even include the ones that went to her firm. The Pritzker Prize, which is often referred to as the Nobel Prize for Architecture, she was the first woman to receive it, the first Arab to receive it, and one of the youngest people ever to receive it. She received the Royal Institute of British Architects Sterling Prize, which is the UK's highest, most prestigious award, 2 years in a row, the Austrian State Prize. She was the first female recipient of the Royal Institute of British Architects Gold Medal. She was named a Dame Commander of the Royal British Empire. She received the Jane Drew Prize. Jane Drew was an early female architect for her outstanding contribution to the status of women in architecture. She was awarded the Premium Imperial by the Royal Family of Japan, named by Forbes magazine and Times magazine as the most powerful, or one of the most 100 powerful women in the world. And New Statesman's magazine's World's 50 Most Influential Figures. So, now that you've learned what you can accomplish when you keep striving for more, as Zaha Hadid once said, I will never give myself the luxury of thinking I've made it. I'm not the same as I was 20 years ago, but I always set the bar higher. So, we talked about Zaha Hadid's other contributions to the world of design in interiors, housewares, yachts, and even shoes. We learned that she was a passionate educator and that she proudly kicked open the door for many more women in architecture, and how she helped bring change to workers' rights around the world, especially in Qatar. And we learned about her many prestigious medals, awards, and honors. Hopefully, that you knew her, may have known her for her dynamic buildings. You've now learned much more about her as all her other contributions. So, that's it. Yeah.